Wednesday show. Wednesday show. Wednesday show. Hello, everybody. I don't know if. Oh, there we go. We got one person on. Hey, Matt. How you doing, buddy? You doing good? Match Matt's pose in this picture right down here. He's at Disneyland. In that picture, he is. There's the partner statue, and then you get Cinderella or Sleeping Beauty castle in the background there. All right, so tonight what we're going to be doing is we're going to be going through and answering your Disney questions just like we did last week. Today is my last day visiting my family. Hey, Shelly. Hey, greetings from Tooniewood, USA. Today we're going to be coming to you. It is my last day in Wisconsin, so we're going to be doing a shorter show so I can spend a little bit a little bit more time with my family before we go. So we're going to have a episode that's a little less time than what we usually do. So we're going to be probably going for about 30 minutes today, opposed to our usual hour long. Howdy. So just like last week, we're going to be going through answering your Disney questions about anything and everything. So while we go through here, if you guys have any questions about anything and everything Disney, start throwing them into the comments below, and we will start going through them after we do our introduction. Let's get to it, because like I said, we're going to do a shorter episode tonight. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 780th episode of The Wednesday Show. Today is July 31st, 2024, and I'm here to host, as always, Brent Dodge. Hello. Today we're going to be going through and answering your questions about anything and everything Disney, so start throwing those questions down into the comments right now. But of course, before we get to that, let's talk about our news for the week. First off, thank you everyone who's been joining us for our Saturday in the Park. If you didn't already know, every single Saturday we do a live broadcast from someplace found throughout the Walt Disney World Resort over on my YouTube channel. Of course, we did not do it this past week. We were too busy winning. That's right, winning the Golden Shuttle Clock Tournament Quest for the Dodge Cup. My brother and I have finally brought it back after 4 miserable years without it. But we will be bringing it back this coming up Saturday at 1 o'clock Eastern Time over on my YouTube channel. So make sure you join us every single Saturday at 1 o'clock Eastern from someplace found throughout the Walt Disney World Resort. Speaking of being on live feeds and subscribing and all that other fun stuff, let's take a look at our viewers or our subscriber count for so far. We're currently at 7,706 subscribers. As always, if we go through and get more subscribers as we go through here tonight, we will go into a few extra innings as we go through here. So instead of a half-hour episode, we might get up to a 45-minute or an hour-long episode. So make sure you send people over if you want to have a longer episode, or if you're watching and you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe as well. And of course, as always, tonight's episode is sponsored by our Patreon pals. Patreon pals. Let's go get some dinner. I don't know, I'm just hungry. Thank you to our Patreon pals. You make the world go round. That's a Disney reference. Okay, let's get to it. So tonight we are going to be going through and doing an Ask the Expert segment, question error segment, where you are going to be throwing your questions about anything and everything Disney. If you didn't join us last week, or if you've never joined us in the past, as we've done this segment before, what we do is you guys throw out any and all questions about anything and everything Disney. It can be things about, can you tell us a historical fun fact about the Great Movie Ride? Or you can ask something like, what's your favorite place to eat at Magic Kingdom? Anything and everything is all the questions that we're looking for. So throw anything as vague as, what ride should I go on next time I'm at Epcot? Or something more complex like, can you tell us exactly how many boats there are in Space Mountain? Don't do that, because I don't know that one. Okay, let's go through here and start answering questions, because we do have a few questions that are popping up in the chat room below. First question, will Country Bear come back to Disneyland replacing Winnie the Pooh for a payback from the former Playhouse Theater? I highly doubt we will see the Country Bear Jamboree replacing Winnie the Pooh. However, there are a few signs right now that are pointing towards the fact that maybe we'll see the Country Bear Jamboree coming back at some point in some way, shape, or form. Right now, the Hungry Bear restaurant over in Disneyland is under construction with a retheme going on towards the Country Bears, which is kind of funny because it was originally the Hungry Bear restaurant as a tribute to the Country Bear Jamboree. And actually, even if you go down still to this day, well, right now it's under construction, but if you go down to the restrooms that are on the bottom floor, there are two different bathroom signs for the men's and the women's room. And if you take a look at the bears on the front there, they are old Country Bear Jamboree characters. So I think maybe at some point we might see the Country Bear Jamboree return at Disneyland. I just don't think it'll be replacing Winnie the Pooh. Just because Winnie the Pooh is a popular character, even though the attraction over there is not that popular of a ride. But at the same time, I feel like it will increase in wait time once Tiana's Bayou Adventure opens up, because a lot of people are going to be in that part of the park, specifically for Tiana's Bayou Adventure. And then, of course, right around the corner, you also have Rise of the Resistance. So I kind of feel like we will be seeing, I think we're gonna be seeing not the Country Bears themselves, but I think we're going to start seeing a little bit more of a reference or a little bit of a resurgence of the Country Bear Jamboree over in Disneyland sometime in the near future. Okay, let's go to our next question here. Keep on throwing your questions in the comments. What details that can be found on the ground in a Disney park are your favorites, aka the Muppet Key, Liberty Square Poop, etc.? Well, I was just with my nephew who talked a lot about poop. So first off, let's talk about these two references, and then we'll talk about my favorite one. And while we talk about these two, I'm going to try to figure out what my favorite one is. There's a few. So in case you didn't know, these two references that Alex is mentioning right now, the Muppet Key can be found over at Muppet Vision 3D. So as soon as you walk into Muppet Vision 3D, on the right-hand side, there is a security booth right in front of you. There's actually a Disney cast member that is there for the Lightning Lane return, and also just the regular standby entrance. But on the right-hand side, there is a security booth, and on the security booth, there's a sign that says, "Back in 5 minutes, key under mat." And there's actually a mat on the ground. If you lift up that mat, there is an actual key under the ground there as well. Sometimes the cast members will actually leave a little magical moment certificate on the ground there for you. So if you go through and take a look at it, you can actually go through and find, not just the key, but you also can find a certificate claiming that you are the first person for the day finding that key. Not a lot of people look under there, so check it out next time. And the cast members aren't going to look at you weird because people do it all the time. The other one that she's talking about, the Liberty Square Poop. So if you go through Liberty Square on the ground, there are all these there's different textures. So most of the ground is red. And then there's another little cobblestone path that's made of little rocks that goes down through the middle of Liberty Square, but it's not like a solid line going all the way through, but it kind of flows back and forth. And this is due to the fact that the Liberty Square area of the park represents colonial times. And because it represents colonial times, there is a thing that used to happen in colonial times called lack of indoor plumbing. So people could not go to the bathroom in a toilet inside. So what they usually would do is, if they didn't have an outhouse, they would actually go to the bathroom in a bucket. And this is mainly for like people who lived in cities or small towns that, there was not a place for you to have a outhouse. So you would go to the bathroom in a bucket, and then you would throw your waste out the window, and it would start to go down to the sewage area at the end of a hill. So when you are walking through Liberty Square, there's all this different sewage there, and that actually represents the garbage and waste and, yes, the poop that you might have disposed out the window from your bucket below. So overall, a really cool but a really disgusting little detail. So going off of that, what details that can be found on the ground in Disney parks are your favorites? I can't think of like a specific one that is my ultimate favorite. Like, I like going through Galaxy's Edge. You can find all the different tracks of like the droids. Over in Toy Story Land, you can find Andy's footprints. I think some of my favorites that are often overlooked, though, are mainly over in Magic Kingdom's Fantasyland. So if you're in Fantasyland and you go to the Sword of the Stone, if you take a look at the ground, like there's different color textures coming out of the ground. And at first it might just be like, there's just, they maybe ran out of one color and they just have different colors there. Because most of the ground is pink, but there's a few that are like a black and a gray that are next to each other, and they both kind of come to a point. These are actually representing 5 different swords that are coming out of the actual Sword of the Stone, paying tribute to the Sword of the Stone that is right behind you. In addition to that detail, If you go right around the corner over to the Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique, at the door that is facing towards Cinderella Castle, you can find 3 stars on the ground. One of them is pink, one of them is blue, and one of them is green. These are representing Flora, Fauna, and Merryweather from Sleeping Beauty. In addition to that, there's a lot of really cool different references on the ground. In addition to that, we also have over in Storybook Circus, you can find like the popcorn things on the ground and the peanuts representing the fact that you are actually at a circus. But my favorite, I think one of the coolest details, one of the coolest ground details that everyone just walks over, literally, and doesn't really pay attention to, and the best place to actually pay attention to it is when you're actually on the People Mover, is the ground in Tomorrowland. So the entire concept of Tomorrowland is, one, you are in a place that is representing the future. And what better way to represent the future than by gears and clocks? Because in order to go to the different time, you have to focus on the idea of time itself. So while you're going through all of Tomorrowland, if you take a look at the ground, you'll find that all of the ground pieces are different gears and clock pieces going together, representing that you are in a completely different time than what you were when you were in Fantasyland or when you were on Main Street USA, when you came over to that specific land. And it's just one of those details that I think most people just walk by and they don't really pay attention to. And because of that, it is one of my favorites. Okay, let's go to another question here. Do you think they will open up Disneyland Lightland? I haven't heard of Lightland. Haunted Mansion Holiday is back at Disneyland, though. I did hear that. I'm extremely excited. How do virtual queues work? Let's talk a little bit about virtual queues. Okay, so there is a huge... I actually was just talking to one of my friends a few weeks ago about this. There are people who love virtual queues. There are people who hate virtual queues. I am on team love virtual queues. And let me explain why I'm on team love virtual queues. Because with a virtual queue, best example would be Rise of the Resistance. Star Wars Rise of the Resistance, the first about half a year that it was open. Actually, not even the first half a year, but from it opening up in December up until March of 2020, and then of course all the parks closed down, they had a virtual queue system where you would get in at 7 a.m. into the park and you would join the virtual queue, and they gave you a guaranteed spot to come back later on in the day. And then later on, they would open up the regular queue for Rise of the Resistance. And when they did that, life got more complicated, because now instead of waiting 3 hours for my time to be called back, I am now waiting 3 hours in the actual line. So I like the idea that when you have the virtual queue, it's kind of like hey, here's your spot in line. You are waiting for a spot in line. So at the specific time, you can go through and get back into the line and come back at your leisure, pretty much. And I think that's so much better than when you go through and wait in these long lines. And I don't know, for me, going on things like Tron, there's multiple times I've literally walked right on Tron with my standby line. But I know for a fact that if I didn't have that standby line, I would be waiting for 2-3 hours. And because of that, I probably would never go on Tron. So I really like the idea of how the virtual queue system does work. I understand why people don't like it, because for people who don't live at Disney like I do, it is a little bit more difficult, because it's like, well, maybe I won't get on this attraction. And if I don't get on this attraction because I can't get in the virtual queue, I just wasted my entire vacation, even though you didn't really waste your entire vacation, because you're still going to Disney World and there's still amazing things that you can do besides going on Tron or Tiana's Bayou Adventure or whatnot. But I like the idea that you can go through, you can make the thing, and then you usually have a lesser wait than what you would have if it was just a regular standby line. Again, for instance, Rise of the Resistance, it is always such a long line now compared to how it was with the virtual queue, when you could literally just walk on, and it just made life so much better. Okay, let's go on and go to our next question here. Have there been any new additions to the Adventures Club lore? I feel like missing Miss Adventure Falls of Typhoon is one of the last. So Miss Adventure Falls is actually not part of Adventures Club lore. It's actually part of the C, aka the Society of Explorers and Adventurers, which is something that was had the foundation placed over in Tokyo Disneyland. Now, the Adventurers Club had a few different things that were carried on over to C, but C is still going strong. C, we have it so there. C, yeah. C has had it so there are a lot of new additions that are going on to different things. But the fun thing about Misadventure Falls was Misadventure actually originally got her debut not at the Adventurers Club, but actually on the Disney Magic. So over on the Disney Magic, if you go to the kids area, the Oceaneers Club, the Oceaneers Club has it so there are different things found around the wall in the kids area. And on those articles, there are things talking about misadventure. And they talk about her adventures or her misadventures around the world and how you are now becoming part of her society of explorers and adventurers, because at that point we had already had that going on. So Adventurers Club is still going strong in some way, shapes, or form because the foundation was laid with the Adventurers Club. For those of you who don't know, Adventurers Club was one of the clubs that was found over at Pleasure Island when it opened up in 1989. And when it opened up in 1989, it became a huge hit. And there is a lot of different really cool details that were in there, including amazing things like Kungaloosh, and of course, marching along we're adventurers, singing our song of adventures, up or down, north, south, east, or west. The adventures life is best, and adventures life is best. That was always a great song. But the Adventurers Club, a few things that are still existing of the Adventurers Club is there are a few things that are found over at Typhoon Lagoon that still pay tribute to the original adventurers. If you go in line for the Jungle Cruise, you can still find a few different things of the Adventurers Club there. And then if you are a person like me who does a lot of Run Disney races, during a lot of the Run Disney races, not all of them, but a lot of the longer distance things, especially the marathon and some of the half marathons, you can actually still find the original actors for the Adventurers Club are out there on the course yelling out Kungaloosh and doing different things that they used to do over at the Adventurers Club, cheering people on. And every single time I see them, I always give them a big Kungaloosh. And they always seem happy because I don't think many people know who they are anymore. And it's very, very disappointing that not many people know. But yeah, long answer, short question. All right, let's go on to our next question here. By the way, keep on throwing your questions about anything and everything Disney into the comments below as we go through here so we can answer any and all questions as we go through. How do you get a high score on Buzz Lightyear? Let's go through this. This is actually one of my favorite things to talk about with people because a lot of people just never seem to believe the fact that I do max out both guns on Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin at Magic Kingdom all the time. However, I've only maxed out once in Disneyland, and I think I barely maxed out. I think it was because we got stopped. So first off, Disneyland, the only target that I know that's like a super secret target is on the Zurg that goes back and forth. If you look at his chest, there's a hole there, and that hole, if you shoot it, it gives you 100,000 points. But you have to like get the right angle and stuff, and it's really difficult. So in Magic Kingdom, the best way to get the max out both guns, if you play it right, you can max out both guns in the first room, but it really comes down to the card in front of you and what angle they're at. Because if they're at a weird angle, your laser is blocked and you won't be able to do it. But if it is at a straight angle, you can usually get maxed out at least your left gun and most of your right gun by the first room. So when you're going into the first area into the first room by Buzz Lightyear Space Ranger Spin, on the left-hand side, there is a robot dancing. It's doing the robot. It's not dancing, but it's standing there, and both of its arms used to move. Now they're both stationary, which makes it a lot easier. But the one that's on the back side, if you hit the target that's in his palm of his hand, you can go through there and you can hit it. Every other hit that you hit in the main part of the target is worth 100,000 points. So on the way up, theoretically, I've done it quite a few times, you can get maxed out. You can hit 20 times in a row on your way up, and you can max out the one gun on the way in. And then what you can do is you can either try to switch over to the right-hand side if you still have enough time, and you can max out that gun. If you can't max it out there, then there is a target above the X of the room, and it is on another hand. So you have to shoot the middle of that hand. Again, every other hit is going to give you 100,000 points. In the next room, the volcano is your key. They're both volcano parts are worth 25,000 points. the best way to do it is when you're entering into the room, go for the target that's on the bottom because you have a better angle at it. And then when you're exiting the room, go for the target that's on the top because that's going to be the better angle while you're exiting the room as well. Also, while you're going through and doing this target, there is a jack in the box at the end of the room. And if you hit the target on the outside of the jack in the box, it's going to open up slowly. So try to hit it before you're going for the volcano. So you hit that, and then you're going to go for the target that's inside the jack in the box. If you hit this, you can usually hit it about 5 or 6 times before the guy pops up and then closes the jack in the box. Each one is worth 25,000 points. So theoretically, you should be able to get about 150,000 points if you have a good aim the entire time. Then in the next room, you've got all the robots on the one-hand side, and then the other side, you have Zurg in the middle on his machine. If you look at the bottom of the machine, there's a target there. If you hit that target, every other hit, again, it's worth 100,000 points. So again, if you are going at the right angle, you really could hit 10 times or 20 times in a row and max out in this room if you've not maxed out at this point yet. Then the next room is the Star Tunnel, where it's just like, it looks like there's nothing there. It looks like you're just kind of going there. And on the right-hand side and the left-hand side, you'll see a spaceship that keeps on flying back and forth. It stops for a split second and then goes to the other side. Where it stops, there's a target on the bottom of that spaceship. Where it stops, just keep on shooting at that thing, even if the target's not there. I usually go for the one that's on the left-hand side because it's easier to see when it's not there. But if you hit that, it's every time you hit it, it's 25,000 points. So there's been several times where I've been like at 750,000 points. I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to max out. But at the same time, if I hit 10 targets right now, I'll be able to max out. And I've been able to hit that 10 times with no problem. And then finally, in the last room, the target that's furthest from the entrance to the room, so the one that's close to the exit, obviously. If you hit that one, that's worth another 25,000 points. So it's your like last chance of trying to get out. So that is a very long explanation on how to get high scores on Buzz Lightyear, but I think it's fun. So make sure you go through and check it out. Please tell me a fact about the former timekeeper Monsters Inc. laugh lore. So timekeeper is, well, first off, you go to Paris, and right now, the Olympics is going on, so this is perfect. Although that's like the only connection to that. But the timekeeper goes through and takes guests through the expansion of history while also traveling through space and time. My favorite things about the timekeeper, which most people don't really realize and they don't really remember, is one, Robin Williams was the voice and the visual inspiration for the timekeeper, who was a robot that was actually in the room with you. And then Nine Eye was played by Rhea Perlman, who was from Cheers. She was Carla on Cheers. She was also in Matilda and several other things back in the 80s and 90s. She was a huge, huge star. And then she actually started writing and different things like that. Also married to Danny DeVito. So the attraction takes you through so many different things. But one of my favorite things about this attraction, my favorite little fun fact about this attraction, is the idea of the Circle Vision Theater had not been around for too long at this point. It originally would have debuted over in Disneyland, and then it made its way over here. But the people who created the Circle Vision Theater were Ub Iwerks, who was also famous for being the co-creator of Mickey Mouse with Walt Disney, and his son Don Iwerks, who, if you've ever watched the Imagineering story, it's Don's daughter, Leslie Iwerks, who actually created the entire series, the Imagineering story. So really long answer for a very short question. Good night, Matt. Have a great night, buddy. Okay, we probably have time for maybe one more question here, and then we'll check our subscriber count, see if we've gone up at all. Do you think Walt Disney World Magic Kingdom will ever get another nighttime parade? Yes, I do. I really do. I don't know when. I don't know how, but I know something's starting right now. I don't know when we'll get it, but I feel like we're going to get a nighttime. I think so. Here's the thing. We've got D23 coming up in 9 days? Is that what it is? Yeah, 9 days from now. 9 days, 10 days, and 11 days. And with that coming, I don't know if you guys remember, but a few D23s ago, they announced that there was going to be a nighttime parade coming, and then, of course, we never got that. So I am thinking, I think we'll get one sometime. I just don't think it's going to be very soon. I especially now that I'm assuming that next week or in 2 weeks we're going to be getting announcements about the Villains Land and about the Cocoa area that's going to be behind Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. And I think with that expansion going on, I don't think we're going to get anything new for like parades and stuff in the Magic Kingdom until all of that other stuff is complete. That is my theory. I could be totally wrong. I could be totally right, but we will see sometime in the near future. What is your favorite parade float? I know that I said we're going to check the subscribers, but that was a shorter answer than I thought. What is your favorite parade float ever? My favorite parade float is the one that inspired my first book. So ironically, I'm not a big parade person. I've never been a big parade person. Although I love the Maleficent one, the dragon that is found right now in Festival of Fantasy. But the Shared Dream Come True parade, and if we were in Florida right now, I could show you the picture because I have a picture of the parade float. But in the Shared Dream Come True parade, thank you. I know they don't. In the Shared Dream Come True parade, there was a flight float, and it was the one with the genie, and he was holding onto a magic carpet with Aladdin and Jasmine were up there. And it originally was the snow globes. Remember the snow globes? And then it slowly evolved, and the first person that was in the thing was Walt Disney, or it was like a cast member dressed like Walt Disney. But the flight one had it so on the right-hand side of it, there was a small little Bernard and Bianca from the Rescuers, and that was literally the inspiration for everything changing for me and like my path of life, because I was like, wait a minute, where can you find other references to the Rescuers? And next thing you knew, I had books and more books and more books and more books. So yeah, kind of crazy. Lots of crazy. Oh, Alex just said, just sent you the parade float. I hit it on my someplace else. I just don't know where. There you go. This is that. That's the parade float. There's the parade float. And then if you look down here, tough to see, but there's Bernard and Bianca there on the genie's lamp. Isn't that cool? I love it. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba. Okay. The final question for the night. How many times have you had cauldrons? I think it's been 5. With some of them just being like grabbing ice cream on the way to other places. So yeah, a lot of other things. Okay, but let's take a look at our subscriber count here and figure out if we're going to go into extra innings. We are still at 7,706 subscribers for the evening here. We are getting closer and closer to that 8,000. So keep on sending your friends over there. I was hoping we hit 8,000 by the end of the month. So, you know, if you guys want to, you have 2 hours to help me push over that pinnacle there. All right, but we are going to be wrapping this up. Like I said, I am in Wisconsin for my last night, so I'm going to go spend some time with my family. But thank you, everyone, for joining us once again tonight. As always, tonight's episode is sponsored by our Patreon pals. If you are one of the Patreon pals in the chat room right now, give us an oh, yeah. Thank you, everyone out there, for joining us once again tonight. I hope you guys all enjoyed. Next week, we will be back to our 1-hour episodes back down in Florida. So make sure you join us for that. We will be coming to you live at 9:30 Eastern time. So I hope you guys enjoy. As always, I hope everyone out there has had a great night tonight. As always, if you're not subscribed, make sure you subscribe. And as always, of course, remember that anything can happen if you let it. Until next time, have a great week, everybody. Bye-bye. Goodbye now. Goodbye. Goodbye now. Bye-bye. Goodbye now. Are they gone? Are they gone? Oh, good, my cheeks just can't stand this kind of pressure. Jiminy,